Hey guys, welcome to Amity Tracks. Well, Frank Beard has passed away, the longtime drummer of ZZ Top. That band had basically those three guys. Frank Beard, Dusty Hill on bass, and Billy Gibbons on guitar. Dusty and Billy both sang. Those three guys for over 50 years. It's one of the most stable lineups, I think, ever. But yeah, Frank Beard passed away a couple days ago. Dusty Hill, of course, passed away in 2021, so Billy's the only one left. But yeah, I just wanted to pay tribute to Frank and Dusty. I hadn't. I think he passed away before I was making some of these videos. So and just talk about ZZ Top a little bit because as a Texan, ZZ Top has always been a special band to me. The as a Texan and of course being from Houston. I don't live in Houston anymore, but I was born and grew up in Houston. And ZZ Top was like our band. I mean, they were a band from Houston. I know Frank Beard and Dusty Hill started playing together in Dallas, I believe, but then sort of migrated down to Houston and hooked up with Billy Gibbons. And ZZ Top was really kind of born in the Houston area. And a lot of kind of Houston old timers like myself, have a story or two of running into one of the ZZ Top guys just around town. I mean, so many people. I have my own story. There was this real fancy ice cream, or shall I say gelato place in Houston, Dolce and Fredo. I don't know. I don't remember. Anyway, and I was in there one night, and in walks. I've gone back and forth in my head whether it was Dusty or Billy, but one of the guys with the beard. I used to think it was Dusty, but now I'm thinking it was Billy. But anyway, one of those two guys walk. It's night. He walks in. He's got this just all black suit, this awesome cowboy hat on, wearing the shades. The beard's like actually tucked into the like into his shirt, and he's got this buxom blonde on his arm, much younger than him. And I just remember just looking at I didn't go up and say anything to him or ask for an autograph or whatever. But I mean, I was probably you know this close to him because I think I was walking out the door and he was walking in or something. But I was like face to face right there. And I've always thought I was so happy that like those were the guys. Walking into an ice cream place in Houston is basically the same guy that was in those videos on MTV. What I mean is like with the women and the shades and like even going out to get ice cream, they held up the image. I don't know. I just thought that was cool. That was awesome. But yeah, so many people from Houston, have some story of kind of running into one of those guys. And ZZ Top, they've been one of my favorite bands. I one of the very first album rankings we did on this channel was ZZ Top. Yeah, it was kind of before I really had the pattern down or my system down. I maybe it'd be one to redo. I think I could do it better. It was one of the very first ones we did, but it was there. I love ZZ Top. In the '70s, those guys. I mean, just they were Texas to the bone. Just gritty and grooves, and just a tight band. They even I forget whether it was for the Tejas album or whether it was the Guayo album, but it was one of those mid to late '70s tours where they did the huge like Texas international tour. Where like the stage was in the shape of Texas, and they had like farm animals on stage with them and bales of hay, and it's just awesome. It's awesome. And then in the '80s, they somehow got even cooler than they were in the '70s. And one of the things I've always admired about ZZ Top is out of all these bands from the '60s and '70s, I I think that maybe they made the greatest, best transition into the '80s, and it seems so unlikely, but they did. And most successful transition, I would say. Yeah, and I think the key is while always being kind of being rooted in the blues, they were also always kind of happy to experiment. You know, which I think explains why, they were able to use the synthesizers and the drum machines into the '80s, but still sound like heavy and rock. I mean, think about that. That was a difficult trick, to pull off. And I think another big part of it is that those guys always had this huge sense of humor. I mean, there was always a lot of humor in these records. And man, these records! I just pulled. I've got everything on vinyl and/or CD, but I just kind of wanted to pull some of my favorites out here. Just talk about them a little bit. The debut is good, but I think they really hit their stride on their second record, right? Rio Grande Mud. We just look at that. Look at that album cover. It's just awesome. There's Billy without a beard at this point. I think Dusty was sporting the beard early on. There's Frank back there. Yeah, just this, I think, in some ways, is kind of their most pure, like blues influenced album. I mean, Just Got Paid. It's one of the great guitar riffs. Oh, it's so good. Chevrolet is awesome. Sure Got Cold After the Rain Fell, I think, is probably their most beautiful, like extended slow blues. That song just, I was listening to that today, actually. That song, that just gets me every time. But yeah, of course, the album, right? Tres Hombres, you know, is really where they really just, I think, kind of exploded, and I mean, this gatefold, look at that beautiful spread of greasy Mexican food and beer, and it's just, yeah, yeah, to me, that is so indicative of the greasy, awesome blues rock within this album. But yeah, I mean, Waiting for the Bus, Jesus Just Left Chicago, Beer Drinkers and Hellraisers. I could read the whole track. The Masters of Sparks is a great kind of deep cut. Yeah, Precious and Grace. I remember reading about that song. That it was actually the name of two young ladies, two young hitchhikers that Billy and, I think it was Billy and Dusty, or two. I think Billy was involved. But I forget who the other one picked up on the way between Houston and Dallas. I think. Lagrange, of course. Yeah, it's just awesome. To me, this is one of the great records of the '70s, and yeah, it just one. But they also have one of the great albums of the '80s too. It, you know what that is. But before we get to that, yeah, I've always been a big fan of Tejas. This is where they were willing to kind of shift and change their sound a little bit. It's got a cleaner sound. That's one of the most gorgeous instrumentals, acoustic instrumentals ever in Asleep in the Desert. They never recorded something like that again. I wish they had, because that is a gorgeous song. But man, no, and Billy's guitar tone is different on here, and again, the gatefold, the sleeves, these pictures. Is there anything like more kind of Texas cool than there's Billy? Just look at these pictures, man. There's Frank right there. Rest in peace, right? Oh, you can see there. There's Dusty. I mean, it's just like Texas cool. I don't know. You can't beat these gatefold pictures. Tejas. I'm a big fan of El Loco. This one kind of falls under the radar because it's after Deguello. I didn't pull Deguello off the. Now Deguello, sorry, I just knocked the camera there. Deguello is a favorite of many fans, but I don't know. Well, it didn't put off the shelf, but there it is, of course. One of the great album covers, I think. I don't know. That's kind of one of my hot takes on ZZ Top. This is not one of my favorite ZZ Top albums. I think the hits, like I Thank You, and of course Cheap Sunglasses, and I'm Bad and Nationwide and whatever. Those are top notch. But I don't know. The rest of it is not one of my favorites. Like, I actually prefer El Loco to that. And of course, the great, really strange, like experimental song almost, right? Heaven, Hell, or Houston. It's fantastic. But no, they can be so juvenile, with Pearl Necklace and Tube Snake Boogie, but still just rock. Yeah, I mean, again, the humor and kind of fun. The ZZ Top always had some fun. But yeah, of course, Eliminator in the '80s, and talking about Frank Beard. sort of being willing to step back and allow some of the drum machines to kind of take over. But Frank was still in there too. But yeah, experimenting with and then using kind of synthesizer for the deep bass, and but you still have Billy Gibbons' gritty guitar, and then you just have this set of amazing rock songs. I mean, this was huge. I mean, this was one of my very favorite albums when I was growing up in the '80s. Eliminator is fan. Give me all your lovin', got me under pressure, sharp dressed man, legs, TV dinners. I mean, this is just and being able to transition, and also into the MTV age, right? Those videos were just fantastic. So much fun. I Need You Tonight, kind of a great kind of slow burn blues, but in sort of the '80s feel as well. Kind of a, I don't know, a successor to Sure Got Cold After the Rain Fell, but for the '80s, right? Yeah, I mean, you can't beat Eliminator, and I've said this before. I'm a huge fan of Afterburner. I know this is their most kind of least blues and most sort of pop album, but yeah, they have so many great blues albums. Again, I admire them for let's go in a different direction, but some great songs. Sleeping Bag is awesome. It's a great song. Stages, the great rock song. Um, Rough Boy, of course, gorgeous. Yeah, I mean Velcro Flies, fun. So even those songs are just fantastic. Yeah, ZZ Top is just like I said, just one of my very favorites. Um, yeah, it kind of hit me a little bit when I saw that Frank Beard had died. What's interesting, supposedly from what I've heard and read, when Dusty Hill was not doing well, and it was clear he might be gone soon, and he couldn't do the gigs much anymore. He basically told the other two guys, "I want you guys to carry on." And of course, Dusty's guitar or bass tech has taken over the bass duties of a guy named Elwood, right? Since Dusty died in 2021, and supposedly, from what I understand, Frank Beard told Billy the same thing. I want you to carry on, and Billy Gibbons canceled a couple of the shows this week that were because they were on tour. Canceled the shows this week, but supposedly the shows this weekend are on, and Billy's going to carry on. You know, if that's what Frank and Dusty wanted, then awesome. Keep doing it. Keep going. I think the Frank's drum tech is taking over the drums, so it's kind of cool. They're keeping it all in house, which I kind of like. But yeah, I don't know. There's not another sound. It's quite like ZZ Top sound, be it in the '70s or the '80s, as they kind of changed a little bit. And some of their stuff into the '90s and beyond is good. I mean, their last album, I didn't pull it off the shelf. I have it on CD. Um, ah, Drawing a total blank on the name of it though. Uh, well, it's up here. Uh, um, Actually, very good. Sort of trying to kind of reach back a little bit to some of that '70s sound. And if that is, well, I guess that is probably going to be the final studio album. It's a fine one. Oh, La Futura, right? Yeah. Um, it's a fine one to go out on, I think. So yeah, rest in peace, Frank and Dusty, and keep moving on, Billy. And yeah, just thank these guys for this just awesome music over the years. And like I said, as a proud Texan, there's something kind of something real special about ZZ Top's music to me. Well, anyway, what do you guys think? In the comments, let's talk ZZ Top. What are your thoughts and memories, favorite albums, favorite songs? Whatever. Let's just talk ZZ Top in the comments. And I will mention too. I know this has really been bothering you guys a lot. I am sure. But I know it's been a while since my last video. It's been about a month. Um, I was just I was actually out of town working for 2 weeks. I was part of it. And then right when I got back, we took a big family trip, and that took forever. And I've been back at my other job, and that's been kind of crazy since I got back to that. So it's just been life stuff. So don't worry, I still got plenty of videos in mind for the future. Actually, some interesting releases I think coming out. Neil Young's got a new one coming out in the fall with the Chrome Hearts. Peter Gabriel's got a new one coming out. Um, OI, the sequel to IO. He's been releasing the songs on the Moon Cycle again. So review that when that comes out. What else? There's a couple other ones that I'm just kind of forgetting offhand. But some other interesting releases coming out in the fall. So yeah, we got some good reviews coming up. Anyway, some good stuff. Well, we'll see you next time on Amity Tracks.